See, we don't need to come up with new projects, we just need to change the color of everything.
Right. That's better.
You don't talk.
It's thundering. We got like a Foley artist out there. Ron?
Oh.
Hey everybody, we made it again to Friday. Sometimes it feels like you just kind of barely make it there. So happy Friday to you, and welcome to the Woodsmith Magazine shop. I'm Phil Huber, joined by the usual cast of suspects. So we're gonna kind of go around the shop here pretty quick and show what's been going on. I'll start, and last season on the TV show, season 13, so last season for us, might be current season for everybody else, we did some shop-made clamps. So one of the sets that we did were these fun wood cam clamps, and this was the one that I think I demonstrated on making on the show. And you just pull the lever on there, and it pulls out this applies pressure to this tongue that secures the clamp to a workpiece or a bench top or whatever. They work really well. They provide a light to medium amount of clamping pressure, but it's still surprising how much it actually is. So we had some leftover pieces. I'm in the process of finishing those up, because why throw them away when you can make them for your own shop? So in addition to two little short clamps from the bars that we had, I had some leftover stock, so I'm going to make some longer ones. So I'll have 4 clamps all together in 2 different sizes, and I think it'll be a fun little addition to my shop and a connection to the TV show. If you'd like to get the plans for these, they're at the TV show site. It's woodsmithshop.com. We did 5 shop-made clamps, and you can download the plans for all 5 of those. All those clamp designs. They all come from the masterful mind of Mr. Chris Fitch, who, as we've said before, is like 50% Wile E. Coyote, 50% super genius. So I think we're going to head over to Mr. Mark Hopkins for our international segment on making a bookcase.
Hello everyone, I'm Mark. I'm the resident Englishman here at the magazine, aka the shop craftsman. So I was out of town for a little bit, so I returned last week, and I was expecting to build a little wooden boat that we've got planned for the upcoming issues, but that's been put back. So I started on this on Dylan Baker designed waterfall bookcase, as you see there, which is going to be made out of mahogany. So I made a start on cutting all the templates that's going to be involved for that. I'm sure you can see that whole thing, which is basically a full-sized template of one of the sides. And I said to Dylan yesterday, well, why don't we just make it out of MDF, just make another one of these, and then
just paint
call it good, and then we're done. So I've got that guy, and then there's the bottom piece is going to be going on the front of that. And then I'm not sure if you can see this detail on here, but on the front edge of these side pieces is going to be a beaded profile, which is going to be done using this router bit right there. So this template is actually going to act as the guide for the bearing to follow.
So you use it for flush trimming the pieces to their final size, and for that's kind of cool.
So it's going to double up as the guide for the bearing, and the actual template for actually cutting the pieces to shape.
And it's mahogany, that's what we're working
mahogany,
with?
so I've let this mahogany sit here for a week, let it acclimate to the shop. So come Monday, I'll start cutting the shapes, and then we'll be in good shape. So well, that's what I've got going on.
Okay.
You didn't have enough mahogany with the
leftover from the console?
Well, I figured you'd have enough working with it. Like, give them something easy.
I've had enough.
Cherry or something.
Yeah, blame Dylan.
Speaking of Dylan, you know, sometimes we're working away on getting an issue out. We got a due date coming up next week, and you get a little frenzied up at your desk, and you're in the middle of doing a bunch of writing or copy editing. or designing projects that you feel like you're going to scream a little bit, your hair ends up looking like Dylan's, so you just need to spend some time in the shop. And I think
This is actually premeditated.
Right.
It takes very hard work to make this look contrived.
so. You kind of have a little personal project going on, a sanity project.
I do. So like Phil said, it's always, I think, more than necessary to step outside of our usual kind of comfort zones when we're working away at whatever project it is. Again, like Phil said, whether it's editing, designing, I think it's just kind of a necessary part of our job to kind of be able to step over here, work on something that you've either been planning or just kind of impromptu, or something that's just kind of been lingering in the back of your head. So I kind of had the good fortune, I would say, of coming across an old November issue of Woodsmith Magazine, 1961. Little math lesson. Well, not math. I wasn't born yet for about 28 years, so
Wow.
if that tells you anything. But with that being said, I ran across this old glass lamp bird feeder. So it uses like an old kerosene, basically glass lampshade that you'd see on, well, an old kerosene lamp. Certainly not one I had seen in my lifetime unless I was over at a grandparent's house, but nevertheless, I really enjoy just the illustrations of these, and kind of, I mean, they're reminiscent of some of the views that we do. Granted, we do our stuff on our illustrations on the computer now, where these would have been most certainly hand drawn at the time. So there's a lot of interest going on here with just the hand drawings, the exploded views. But again, just after printing this off and showing a little interest, I took it upon myself to kind of get started with this. So we had some leftover scrap, Doug fir, and I think there's some cedar here from the Workbench companion that I was designing for a previous issue that we'll talk about next. But again, we'll see I've got my blank for my back cut, I've got my pieces for the feeding pedestal, and I'm gluing up a couple blanks here to do the pitched roof on my bird feeder. And kind of interesting about this too is not only that, again, it's just pretty much made out of scrap wood. This glass lamp cover here, to my surprise, doing a little research on the internet, there is an antique lamp supply store that offers these in various sizes, and Van Dyke's, which is a hardware store that we oftentimes order cabinet or furniture hardware from, and they have them in various sizes. So it's quite easy to find if you don't have one. So I went ahead and ordered one of those, and again, I've got my pieces cut out. I'll start doing a little probably dry assembly later, and we'll maybe check back in with that next week. However, we'll turn our attention to the Workbench companion that one of our shop craftsmen / CAD specialists has been working on for the last couple of weeks. This is the final product here. I don't believe that we've seen it painted or in its final form yet, so we went ahead and used a latex-based paint from Benjamin Moore. If you're interested in the color, it's Garden Cucumber, and what we used was flat, which again, I kind of knew this going into it that we may end up lacquering it, so I avoided using satin. But if I were to do it all over and you weren't going to use lacquer, I'd probably use a little bit of satin finish just to, again, give it a little bit more of a protective coat, because this thing picks up everything, and it's inevitably going to be in your shop where it's going to get dirty. So whether that's an issue for you or not, again, I guess it's kind of all up to you. But we've got the Doug fir top assembled and put on. We've got some bench dog holes here for some, I designed these, the thicknesses for the mini pups, and then some of the Wonder Pumps if you want to. And then we don't have it on here yet, but we've got a blank that we're putting on here with 4 pegs that adheres to the surface. You want to use a utility vise if you do any sort of like metal work, or again, you just need a smaller clamping surface. And this feature I added, which I really like, because I'm oftentimes, if I'm kind of getting stuck and I don't want to just keep cutting pieces, because inevitably I do improvise a lot when I'm creating stuff in the shop, trying to come up with new ideas. So it's nice to have a little bit of a work surface. A lot of times I'll just have a piece of butcher block paper, or even a piece of scrap wood that I just want to do some light sketches on, do some simple math that I can't do in my own head. So thought that was just kind of a nice feature to add. Again, whether you decide to add it or not, it's up to you. We've got a couple drawers, and then we added a door down here. Just instead of using the traditional Euro 110-degree hinges, we did a pivot hinge on here, just more of a space-saving Again, you could go either way. We're just, again, experimenting with some different hardware choices. And then the knobs you see on there are traditional shaker mushroom knob for those. So overall, I'm really happy with the way it turned out. I think the color works really well with the Doug fir. It makes it pop on there, and it makes for a nice contrast and overall piece. So.
Yeah. I like the idea of combining the shaker aesthetic that you were initially inspired by for the work table, and then being able to translate it to the shop with plywood construction, which I thought was kind of fun detail.
But it would make a really cool kitchen cart too.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could have that as like a butcher block top.
Yeah, like I wouldn't maybe go orange wheels, but it would make a really cool like
Depends on
butcher.
the kitchen.
It's true.
Yeah.
It would make a really cool like butcher block top for your kitchen. It'd be kind of sweet.
Or a little serving cart or something.
Yeah.
Now, we had a question about the wheels
Okay.
at one point. Where did the casters come from?
So the casters you see, they're all locking, and the brackets as well are a bench dog product. We ordered ours from Rockler. I believe the casters also come in black, so that's an option. I suspect if you get the right diameter threading on your caster, you could probably use those brackets with other casters too. We just kind of ordered them as a grouping for this particular project, just so everything would work flawlessly. And again, it's a product that I hadn't used, and I don't really think that we had used before. We're kind of used to using, I think, the red Rockler like 5-inch casters, which work really well. Just didn't really need the height, or I think really the rigidity on here. And again, just for the sake of trying out a new product, I think they worked out really well.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about these two, one last detail, they're turned in. You can flip those out, and so it gives you a little bit larger footprint if you need it for whatever reason. Again, if you have a little bit bigger worktop, or again, need to build this up, or you're just building a completely different project and want, again, a larger footprint on the floor, those do turn out. They're just oriented the way they are, so.
Yeah.
Do you know, does anybody own the website workbenchcompanion.com? Because I think that would make a really nice dating website.
Wow.
Why did we let him away from his desk?
Think about that.
Yeah, unfortunately, none of us were able to come up with anything sardonic to say. We'll think about that. Just no one take it while we think about it.
Yeah. We're going to put a hold on that one right now.
Tune in next week.
Oh my.
New product
Not
launch.
intending.
So now, one of the comments on there, and I don't know if anybody put this out there, question was, what do we pay around here for 3/4-inch Baltic birch?
5x5 sheet, which is true Baltic birch, right? 5 foot by 5 foot sheet. It's 60 inches by 60 inches.
Yeah.
I think we pay like $58.
That's what I was going to say. It was going to be like
Right around
60
60.
bucks.
Yeah, it's somewhere right around 60. True Baltic birch is expensive, but it's a quality product.
Yeah,
right?
I frankly love using it.
So you can get it cheaper, however. Menards, if you guys have Menards where you're located, which we have in the Midwest, Menards carries what they call Baltic birch in 4x8 sheets. I don't think it's a true Baltic birch. It is 13 ply.
Right.
I don't know how flat it is and how void free it is, like the stuff we get.
Yeah, I think we've used it a few times on projects, right?
we-
Yeah, the all-in-one workstation was 4x8 sheets, but that was from Liberty.
Yeah.
And the stuff we get from Woodsmith is like the Russian.
That's
concrete
the-
stuff.
yeah.
The other stuff I think is from the East
Woodless,
Baltics.
football
Yeah,
It's like kind of like
It's the hoity-toity
Yeah.
Baltic.
What I think what I like about Baltic birch is that the face plies are the same thickness as all the other ones.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I've actually used hand plane on
Yeah.
those face plies, and you can hand plane the surface.
Because they're like a 16th of an inch
Yeah.
thick. And-
Right.
Yeah.
You can take 120 to that stuff all day too, and not have
Yeah.
to worry about
Yeah.
going through a layer, which is really nice.
But to answer your question, $60 for a 5x5 sheet. It's expensive, but it's kind
So
of
worth it.
Yeah.
I like working with it. I feel like it's almost like working with solid wood.
Yeah, it's better than any other plywood you can buy. Even like a super high-end, hardwood plywood.
Yeah.
Baltic birch is better, in my opinion, by far. So.
So I'm going to do one last check on questions and comments over here.
Okay, let's go back to the editor bench. I got stuff. I'm getting projects done. I hope my wife's listening because I'm doing stuff. I'm also wrangling John's cord right
There you
now to make sure he doesn't trip up. So This is a project that's kind of been floating around in our video studio for a couple of months now. I'm working on, so about a year ago, I built a sleigh bed for myself, for my wife and I, based on a Thomas Mosier design. And the next phase was to build matching side tables. Now, obviously, not sleigh bed side tables or sleigh side tables, but they are a Thomas Mosier design. So I've had these panels glued up for quite a while, sitting in our video studio. This is air-dried walnut from Waterloo, Iowa, is where the tree grew. It's been air-dried for like 30 years, but I have had so many issues with this stuff moving once it's glued up. So these panels have been glued up. I actually just earlier this week had to cut this one apart right here and re-glue it up. They seem to have stabilized now. Thankfully, we are, the issue we are finishing up right now, I am writing an article on moisture meters. So I have a couple of really nice moisture meters, and I was just checking these things to see if it was a moisture issue. They seem to be pretty dang dry. I'm at 8 to 10% on each board, depending on where you're at, what the grain structure is like. So they seem to be stabilized for now. These will get cut, and the next phase will be dovetailing to the sides. There'll be 2 floating cubes, basically. This was a preliminary top that I had glued up, and I had cut my dovetails. I had mitered them, and then I started looking at it, and this sounds like super anal, but I did not like the slope of dovetails I chose. This was a 1 in 6 dovetail, so it's like, what's 1 in 6 degrees off the top of your head, do you know? I have no idea. Anyways, this was a 1 in 6 angle. I just, after standing here looking at it, I didn't like the angle, so I went ahead and I glued up this new top under here. And yes, I'm going to remake this top just because I don't like the angle of the tails. So is that going to turn into the bottom then? No, I think what this is going to turn into is going to be my drawer fronts. Oh. Because my cases, my sides will be this wide. Yeah. So I just have to cut a little bit for a reveal. Sure. And this is pretty nice grain right here. Yeah. It's nice straight grain. Straight. Yeah. So I think I'll get maybe one face out of here, one drawer face out of here, and maybe the backs as well. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'm not going to just throw it away by any means. Yeah. But it's one of those stupid things that after I looked at it, I'm like, I just don't like the angle of that dovetail, and it's such a minor detail, but I'm gonna look at it all the time. So yeah, I'm gonna change it, make it a little more straight up and down. So.
All right, a couple of updates before we wrap up here. One is that we found out from one of the viewers of the broadcast here that Workbench Companion is available as a site.
Yes.
So
Jump
at least
in
for now.
now.
So a new woodworking dating site coming to you.
Right.
You guys want to take another question?
Yeah, from Sandy, right?
This is from Fort Sawdust, but we can do Sandy as well, yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
So Sandy's her question is, I will be making an NFT out of outfeed table. Any suggestions on material for the top?
Outfeed tabletop.
Outfeed, so the MFT, like the Festool tabletop.
Multifunction table.
That's peppered with a bunch of bench dog holes. They're usually made out of MDF, and that's really not a bad choice.
Nope.
We have this bench right here has an MDF top, and what's nice about it is that it's smooth, it's easy to work with, and they're pretty flat.
Yes. However, what I would say, I just finished my outfeed table at my house.
Sure.
MDF, but I also put laminate on top.
Right, and that's what I was going to say is we have a couple of examples here. We have this outfeed table, which is actually a cart. It's got wheels on it so you can move it around. A lot of storage on the back side of the table saw.
Sawdust collection.
Sawdust collection. And then we did this one out of Baltic birch plywood again because it's primarily flat, but we covered it with plastic laminate. What's nice is because, like your saw table, it's going to turn into extra work surface.
Yep.
So you can see on here there's glue and knife marks. The laminate is really nice because as you're pushing pieces across your saw on outfeed, it's not going to hang up.
And usually glue comes off super easy.
Yeah, you can come across it with a scraper.
Yeah,
or keys. I mean, whatever.
You know, keys make them very good. It's yeah.
And then if you want to go like the MFT route, Mr. Dylan Baker actually designed this cart, which has similar functionality to the MFT in that we have a bunch of bench dog holes for accessories and things like that, but then also the dovetailed slots for the match fit clamps, because they have a dovetail shape to them, so you can slide those into the tracks and then lock parts down just with the clamps. So that's pretty handy. But again, we did laminate on the top of this one, red, because why not?
Yeah.
And I would vote for the laminate for something like an outfeed table.
I would as well.
And even as an MFT, even if you were going to end up cutting into it with your circ saw
So
or whatever, it's not that big a deal.
And 2 layers. Do 2 layers, in my opinion, for the top. It will help it stay flat no matter if it is MDF or plywood.
Dylan, any comments?
Show them how that top flips.
Sandy appreciates the feedback, and then Fort Sawdust is our last question. He says, speaking of air-dried wood, if wood is kiln-dried, is it okay to use for bending if it is soaked in fabric softener?
Whoa, that went deep. That went deeper than I was expecting.
Yeah, so normally, once you kiln dry wood, the lignin kind of,
Yeah.
I'm totally going to go off the reservation here.
You do it.
Because from what my understanding is when you kiln dry it, the heat does something to the wood fibers.
Yes.
That it makes them not as pliable, even if you were to steam it, even if you were
Yeah.
to soak it in boiling water, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
You're usually going to get a fracture unless your bends are fairly shallow.
Yes, I will piggyback on to that. So I'm going to put 1 foot back on the reservation and say, I think it depends on what type of kiln it is. If it's a heat kiln,
Sure.
there are dehumidification kilns and vacuum kilns. I think those woods that are in a dehumidification kiln or a vacuum kiln will bend okay,
Okay.
but air dry is always the best.
Yeah.
I've never heard about soaking it in fabric softener.
I don't know.
It would smell fantastic, probably.
Right. Depending on which one you did.
Yeah, I don't know how it would.
And it would be cuddly soft.
It would be. I don't know how well it would take a finish because fabric softeners can have some waxes in them.
Yeah, it makes it
You know what
a
I mean?
slippery. I think
Yeah.
does that come from the DIY homebrew veneer flattening kind
Maybe.
of solution?
Maybe.
I'm not aware of that working. I just don't know what to say on that. I'm
Yeah.
sure the internets are all full of different
Research,
opinions on
yeah.
whether research on that. One place to check that actually is a really good resource. It's part of the University of Wisconsin. Go Badgers! Is the Forest Products Laboratory.
Yep.
They have, I think it's like forestproductslaboratory.edu or
Yeah, it has
something
to
or
be,
other,
yep.
something like that. They have a ton of information that's available on all kinds of wood applications.
Yeah.
And they're full of wood nerds, so that even if you were to call them, I'm sure somebody would have an answer for you.
Yeah, I would still, long story short, if you can, stick with air dried for bending.
Right.
No matter if it's steam or
Yeah.
just straight bent
Yeah.
lamination or something.
But
like
we've
that.
done some relatively shallow radius,
Yeah.
gentle bends with, gentle bend?
Gentle bend. Yep.
Uncle Ben Rice?
Yeah.
Anyway, with kiln dried stuff and had it do okay.
Yeah, I guess the rocker we did on the TV show, that was bent lamination. So that's a little bit different animal,
Yeah.
but even then, you have 1/8 strips, shallow bend.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Long rambling answer, not a lot of content there. That's why you're tuning in on a Friday afternoon
Because you have nothing else to do.
and motivation is sinking.
Yep.
So everybody enjoy your weekend. Remember, next week, right?
What? What's next week?
No, week after next is our
Seminar?
Woodsmith Live seminar, online seminar. We're going to be talking about custom finishes, being able to get the look that you want on your projects without having to be a chemistry
Yep.
major.
And I am going to throw out there, we've had some questions about if we are going to be doing our Woodsmith Live event in 2020.
Yes.
A lot of people that attended it in 2019, this last year at Living History Farms, have emailed us saying, hey, it was a great time. We want to know if you guys are doing it again because we'd like to get tickets before they are all gone. We will be doing it. We actually have a planning meeting in about 5 minutes. Oh crap, we gotta wrap this up. But yes, it will be some
Sometime this
information will be coming out about that
Yeah.
fairly soon, I would think. So-
Hopefully we will be able to announce date and location this time next week.
Yeah, so
So,
till then, we have 5 minutes to go get to a meeting.
yeah.
So-
Thanks, everybody. Happy
See you
weekend.
guys.